and welcome back. It's fantastic to have you with us for day 2. And day 1, we looked at how to apply both strategic and operational thinking. Today, we are getting our hands dirty, moving from policy to action and mastering the act of stakeholder. We have a packed session ahead. So let's dive straight in. And like I said, please, I said in day 1, get the best of this training by being attentive and having your notebook and your pen by your side. So we start right away. Today we are looking at policy to action and stakeholder management. So we're going to look at first step for policy to action bridge, how to write a policy logic map, the RACI framework for accountability, stakeholder mapping and analysis, managing resistance to implementation. So a policy document is just a statement of intent, while an implementation plan is a statement of commitment. So policy is like it's a set of rules that outline what an organization wants to achieve. It has to do with thinking. An implementation plan is actually the action doing the work. It's the step-by-step how-to guide to make whatever you have planned as your policy to happen. For example, let's say you have a policy, a new policy that no plastic use in the office or no plastic rule. Implementation will entail buying reusable cups and removing all trash bins by Friday, for example. Now, most organizations are very good at formulating policy. There are very few are disciplined about the second, the implementation. So you can see in green, policy design. You have approval from management, from cabinet, legislations has been passed. Then you can see the gap, the translation breakdown. How do you translate that policy into action to achieve your intended strategic outcome? Now, when you are able to bridge this gap, implementation will happen. And when you have put measurable indicators at the beginning, like I said in day 1, you are designing your policy. The impact of your policy will be visible. For example, you want poverty reduced, you'll be able to measure it. So most organizations excel at creating policy documents because it is aspirational and intellectual. You can sit down, do a research, tailor-made it to your organization. Basically just define what and why, resulting in a polished manual that signifies intent. It's like going to school, having a first degree. It's theoretical. When you now come to start working, you will see how to now translate the theory, the theories, the concept into achievable parameters. That's like the implementation plan. Another example, let's say a ministry now just say, oh, we want to go digital to eliminate paper-based delay. Good policy. But implementation plan must now include, oh, we need to buy scanner, retiring physical filing cabinet by, say, June 1st, 2026, for example, and training 200 staff on the new e-portal. So those 200 staff, you will not just get them like that. There are things you do to get the number you want. There are things that must happen. This must happen before the next. So let's look at policy to action bridge. How do you bridge that gap, that translation gap from your policy to action? So we are going to look at 4-step framework for translating policy into results, action. So I want you to see, first of all, the policy as a destination on a map. A destination on a map. I'm going to Afghanistan. It's a destination on a map. It's a desire that you want. Now, this 4-step framework are going to help you to get to that destination. So you see them as your GPS navigation that will actually get you there. So what do you do first? You buy a ticket. So that is like unpacking the policy. You cannot go and book hotel reservation, make reservation for hotel when you have not bought a ticket. So one thing must happen before the other. That's you now sequence the work. You assign accountability. You yourself, are you the one that is going to buy the ticket? Or an agent is going to help you buy it? Somebody should be responsible for it. Should answer for it, for the output. And then, what are the enabling conditions? What must happen for you to be in Afghanistan in December 2026? I'm using examples that we can relate with. What is going to happen? What must be in place? I have to buy ticket. I need schedule my make my reservation. What is the weather like as at that time? What will the weather be? So what kind of clothing am I going to take along with me? I need to get permission. Is that I'm on annual leave for me to go. So let's look at those 4 steps one by one. Unpack the policy. The logic map. Before implementation begins, you must make the invisible assumption visible. Somebody, whether you are there or not, should pick up a 1-page document, for example, and know what this policy is all about. So it's the policy logic map. We captured on 1 page what the policy is actually trying to do. Nobody should be guessing. It's basically you take the big fancy full words or fancy words in the document and break them down into plain logic, simple, everyday English. You identify exactly who benefits, what you are assuming will happen, and the core reasoning behind that policy. So, for example, your office creates a remote work policy. Unpacking it means realizing the goal isn't just staying at home, but increasing productivity while reducing electricity costs. For example, in the office, or for health reasons, like in COVID-19. So the goal is not to stay at home and work. The work, you stay at home, but productivity must not decline. So logic map means the problem. What issue is the policy addressing? Beneficiary. Who is the policy intended to help? Key activities. What will actually be done? Output. What is immediately produced? We are training 30 teachers. Outcomes. What changes as a result of that training? Do you have more skillful workforce now? Do you have more staff who are digital literate? That is outcome. What must be true for this to happen? There must be some assumptions. Remember the other day we say if scenarios when you are planning. If this, I will do this. If this, I will do. What must be true for this to happen? So, first activity, using your own work case study. Fill in each of the 6 boxes for your policy. Remember the assignment I gave you day 1, and I said it's going to be your case study for day 2 and day 3. So we're doing day 2. Step 2 and 3, we are looking at the 4 framework for translating your policy into action. What must happen first? Sequence. And who answers for it? So sequences is not about scheduling work. It's identifying dependency chains. What must be true before the next step can happen? It's about finding the domino effect. You identify dependable chains, the tasks that must be finished before the next one can even start. It prevents you from trying to roof a house before the foundation is poured. For example, before your staff can work from home, the IT departments must do certain things. And there must, first of all, be awareness for the people to know that we are going to start working from home. We are shutting down physical work. For example, for instance, COVID-19, to prevent the spread of the virus. There's awareness first. So what do we do to be able to work from home? There are certain things that IT department must put in place. So public awareness. First, the people must know. This is what we want to do. Based on that, there are some people that they don't know how to use the computer. You say they use phone, yes, but they don't know how to, they don't have smartphones. So it will be difficult for those people to work from home. So when you create the awareness, enrollment will follow, which is dependent on the awareness. So you can quickly train some people, basic work, those who are already digital literate, and they don't know how to use some specialized gadgets, you can also train them. So you know that we have 60 people. That will influence the funding. How much do you need? 16 laptops, 50 laptops. Service delivery, whatever you are going to deliver will depend on the funding that has been released. So you see it. For example, the Nigerian National Health Insurance Scheme, very good strategic intention, so that everybody can be able to afford average health services. And even if you even capture some people that the government will have to pay for. But for lack of awareness, no funding to actually do that, the entire process just stagnated. So when you have clearly defined those 6 things, what are the problem you are addressing, the outcome, the input, and all of them, you come and sequence. Next, accountability. We have the RACI, the accountability tool. Who is responsible? Who does the work? Accountability, assigning accountability is the most critical step that you to discipline yourself to do. Every single output must have one named person who is responsible. If the department is responsible, nobody is responsible. One person must be the one to answer if the ball is dropped. Somebody must be accountable for it. Results. Who is doing this? That's being responsible. Who is accountable? Who answer for it? For example, the team lead will answer for certain things. Should be defined. Who answers for this? Oh, the IT person. The C consulted. This person provides input before decisions are made. You are working on IT. The head of IT, you have to consult them, get them involved because they are subject matter experts. You are working on finances. The chief financial officer should be consulted. The I, informed. You keep them updated on progress. So we are working as HR department, we are working on this remote policy work. The CEO must know this is where we are. Even the other departmental heads, this is where we are. We have to inform them. So a critical insight from this, everyone owns it means no one owns it. Every output must have one name accountable person, not a team, not a ministry, not an organization. Number 4, enabling conditions. You identify enabling conditions. These are the must-have for the plan to survive. You map out the resources, tools, or permission that needs to be in place for the work to actually succeed. Without this, the plan is dead. Your policy is dead on arrival. So, for example, for the remote work plan to succeed, the enabling condition is that every staff member has a stable internet allowance and a functional laptop at home. So you see, the first one, the policy, making the policy, it's just about thinking. But unpacking the policy, basically about thinking, this is what we want, this is what we want, you put it down. But 2, to sequence, accountability 3, and 4 is about doing. It's about doing, and that's where the real work is. So let's look at a case study now. Especially enabling environments. Enabling conditions. So let's look at the Anchor Borrowers Program. Nigeria was the one that did this. And like I said, a policy strategic intent can be very strong, but the implementation is where the work is. And remember day 1, when we looked at the divide between strategic thinking and operational thinking. And I said that no matter how good your strategic intent is, if the people who are going to implement it, the information you didn't cascade it down, is going to fail. So let's look at this case study for enabling environments, identifying enabling conditions rather. Now, this program, what was the strategic intent of this Anchor Borrowers Program? It's just essentially a matchmaking and resource sharing scheme designed to make Nigeria self-sufficient in food, especially rice. So the intent was that a farmer, or the farmer has the land, but they don't have money for high quality seed or fertilizer, high quality seeds or fertilizer. Now, there are other companies, on the other hand, processing company called the Anchor now, that needs thousands tons of grain every month to stay in business. So the CBN, the Central Bank of Nigeria, was meant to act as a bridge between them. The CBN will give the loan to the farmer, but they are not just going to give them cash. It will come in form of the input will be actual seeds, tools, and fertilizer that they need to start the season. The farmer is expected to grow the crops backed by technical support and the guarantee safety net of the program that when you produce, there's already an anchor company that will buy it at a lock-in price. Right? Now, the payback. When harvest is done, when it is harvest time, the farmer does not have to wander the street looking for a buyer. The anchor company will just take it, the big processor company. They are legally bound to now buy the harvest at a locked-in price. The farmer will now collect the money, remove his or her own profit, and pay back the loan. That was the strategic intent. To stop Nigeria from spending billions of dollars importing food we can grow ourselves, while making sure the farmers, they get a fair guaranteed payback. Good intention. Strategic intent was clear and sound. But enabling conditions were not mapped. The farmer databases, incomplete. Beneficiary verification was not already before the launch. This is what they should have mapped out. Some of these farmers, they don't even have phones. So where do we go? We need to go to the villages and get all the farmers that will be on this program. We have their databases. We also identify and classify the anchor companies, because later some of them lack the financial capacity to honor the offtake agreements. So you can categorize them. These ones can buy 5 tons, this can buy 1 ton. So you know how to pair them with the farmers. The loan recovery mechanism was weak. No enforcement architecture was in place when borrowers defaulted. So this, you can see, this was not a failure of policy design. So number 1 was okay, policy, strategic thinking, the policy good. It was a failure of implementation transition. Specifically, enabling conditions were not mapped or resourced before the launch. So this must happen was not there. What must happen was not there. Was not in place. It's not in place. So it's not enough to just have the strategy. Translating it to action, which is what we are looking at today, is very key. So let's look at managing stakeholders. Who is a stakeholder? Is anyone? A stakeholder is anyone. Can be an individual, a group, or an organization who can affect or be affected by your project or policy. Think of them as the people with a stake in whether you succeed or fail, ranging from your boss and team to end consumers and the local community where you are doing your project. I want you to know that every policy has a political economy, because there are people who benefit from the current situation and will resist change. There are people who stand to gain from what you want to do now, and they will support the change. So stakeholder management is not public relations. It is the deliberate work of understanding interests and building coalitions that will make implementation possible. So number one, step one, you map stakeholder by influence and interest. Step two, understand the interest behind the position. Step three, tailor communication to each group. Don't use the same one size fits all. Four, manage resistance. Don't just override it. And don't discard it. Say, after all, cannot have 100% agreement or support. No. So step one, stakeholder mapping. Clarify every stakeholder by influence and interest. Mapping stakeholder by influence and interest is a strategic process used to categorize people based on how they care about a project and how much power they have to change its outcomes. This is typically done by using the stakeholder matrix. It's also known as the power and interest grid. It helps you to move away from treating everybody as the same. Instead, you focus your energy where it matters most. So, interest basically measure how the stakeholder is affected by the project or how much they personally care about the project. E.g., for example, a community where water source is being diverted, they have high interest. Influence, which is essentially power, measure the ability to stop, change, or speed up the project. For example, a government regulator who issues permits has high influence. So the matrix is divided into 4. So we look at it first. We look at high influence and high interest. What do you do to these people? You manage them closely. They are your most critical stakeholders. They care deeply and can block, slow, stop, or accelerate you. So you need to engage them frequently. Include them in decision-making points. Address their concerns proactively. For example, my PhD supervisor or my head of department falls into this category. So I need to manage them closely, involve them in decision-making, engage them frequently, and address their concerns proactively. Right? So the next one is, let's look at high influence and low interest. What do I need to do essentially? I need to keep them satisfied. These people have the power to derail me if I become upset with them, if they become upset with me. They have the power to derail me. They have the power to derail me if they become upset. But they don't care about the daily details of what I'm doing. So I need to keep them happy without boring them with too much data. For example, those people having oversight functions, the ministers, the senior officials, they have power, but they may not be watching closely. So I keep them updated. I involve them at key milestones. You all know what milestones are. I'm at that milestone now. We have finished this. I keep them when we are finished, and I don't need to be telling them everything I'm doing every day. The third category low influence, and high interest. These people are very interested, but they have little power to change things. They can often be very helpful with technical details or grant you information. Examples: beneficiary, frontline workers, community groups. They care most about impact. They often hold the most useful information about what is actually happening. So I must keep them informed. Example in this category is the junior officers who eventually use the new mentoring software I am proposing, for example. And the last one, low influence, low interest. I need to monitor them because their influence will grow. They require the least effort, first of all. I just need to keep an eye on them to make sure their status does not change. The truth is their influence can change. Example, other departments that are not involved in my specific policy. Step 2, interest versus position. As a policy professional, you must know people say what they want. People say what they want. Effective leaders understand why they say what they want. So, for example, position, what they say, we oppose this new tax, property tax. That's what they say. But what's their interest? What they mean? Position is what they say. The interest is what they mean. They are saying, we are already overtaxed and we see no service improvement for what we pay for. What should be your effective response as a policy professional? You address the interest, not the argument. Why are they opposing it? What do they mean? No. You now put the revenue from that tax. You put it into specific visible infrastructure improvements, for example. So to show the connection between payment and benefit. So they know that, okay, we're not just paying this money. We are seeing our roads are getting better, our electricity is improving. This is more powerful than going on TV and doing a policy debate. Step 3, the stakeholder communication metrics. Remember, I said that you will not treat all of them as one size fits all. And if they are different, you need to monitor some closely, manage some closely, keep some informed. You also know that the way you communicate to them will differ. Remember, you are supposed to, a category, you just inform them about milestone. Because when you get to you have done something. Oh, we are at this milestone now, you inform them. So I just use this as an example. So stakeholder group, what they need to know, what they fear losing, channels that reaches them, senior ministry officers, what they need to know, strategic alignments, legal basis, things that will not bring compliance issue and everything. What they fear losing, authority and control, and we are in charge, and then we just keep them quiet as if they don't matter. No, channels that reaches them, formal briefing, executive summaries, not plenty story. Frontline implementers, these are the line managers, the operational people. They need to know their specific role, the timelines. So you are not increasing. Their fear is that more work, we'll increase our work. Job security. Let them not come and sack me now because of this new policy. What do? Team meeting, WhatsApp, direct line manager. You can speak to them. Step 4, managing resistance. Remember, every policy has a political economy. Resistance is not the enemy, it is information. That's how you should think as a policy professional. If you see resistance as no, they are not just they are this, they are that. No, 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 no. You see it as information. So you look at it rationally, and then you now know what adjustment you need to make. The one that you don't need to adjust, you also now know how to get their buy-in on it. So resistance to policy implementation is not always irrational. It often reflects legitimate concerns about disruption, loss, or distrust. So legitimate concerns, for example, people fear genuine disruption to their work, livelihood, or community. So these concerns deserve real answers, not dismissal. What do? You listen deeply, acknowledge, then you redesign where necessary, what adjustment you need to make. Misinformation, resistance based on misunderstanding the policy, intent, or scope. You need to clarify directly and repeatedly through trusted channels so that all of you are on the same page. Institutional inertia. The system is designed around the old way. So change is uncomfortable for all of us to some extent. So it's not necessarily that they are opposing you. No, no, no. So you build the capability to be able to communicate, show quick wins that will help them to adopt the policy earlier or make it easier for them to adopt the policy. Bad faith obstruction, resistance driven by self-interest in maintaining the status quo, often from those who benefit from the old arrangement. You will have things like this. When you need to isolate, you isolate those people. When you need to escalate, you escalate to the person higher than you. When you need to negotiate, you negotiate, but you cannot negotiate the core. The core of the policy, no. But you can tweak one or two things to still achieve what you want to achieve. So the key takeaway here is that effective stakeholder management does not eliminate resistance. Listen to it, distinguishing legitimate concern from bad faith, and respond to each appropriately. So let's look at a case study. The Nigerian Civil Service Mentoring Policy was approved by the Federal Executive Council, I think 9th of November 2025. What was the strategic intent? Build a reciprocal mentoring culture across NDAs to develop capacity, improve resilience, and bridge the experience gap across grade levels. And when we talk about grade levels, we are looking at it in terms of the generations. This is the first time that we have the 4 generations in the workplace. Let's take Nigerian Civil Service, for example. You have the baby boomers, you have the Generation X, you have the millennial, you have the Gen Z. So you have people in their 50s, 40s, 30s, 20s. Now, mentoring mostly has been from top to bottom. But we know that this younger generation, especially the Gen Z, they're digital natives. And having at the back of our mind COVID-19. Some people completely shut down because they are not digital frequent. But some organizations were still running because they have a sizable number of people who can work digitally. And so this kind of policy, now when you want to implement it, let's look at some anticipated stakeholder challenges for implementation of this policy. Those are the top, let's say level 15 to 17. They may perceive reciprocal mentoring as a threat to hierarchy. Because what reciprocal mentoring basically means is that Is mentoring from top and bottom. So, for example, the older ones will teach the younger ones institutional knowledge, policy know-how. The younger ones will teach them digitalization, how to work digitally. They have even digitalized the civil service. They have digitalized. But how many of them can use the digitalized platform? How many of them can send file electronically? So these older ones, if these children are not mentoring, they will think that we have become the same. The interest is to preserve their authority and status. So what do? You now frame it as leadership legacy. That the wisdom that they have, if they transfer it, it will shape the next generation. Because true, they have institutional knowledge. Now, those junior staff, let's say from 8 to 12, they don't trust the process because there's power dynamics now. Don't trust people. What is their interest? Save fair opportunity to grow and be heard. Oh, their interest. We can also teach these people. Do they even allow us? Do they listen to us? Because they have always been seeing us as those ones at the bottom. What do you now do? You pilot with trusted early adopters. Okay, adopters. Okay, maybe like 10 people sign up, so level 15 and level 12, for example, mentoring. This week, the senior will teach. Next week, the junior will teach. Would you share those real testimonies? You say they know that, no, they will not look down on us. So they can also listen to us. So we have something to also contribute. The NDA's HR department, their own is additional workload without additional resources. What is their interest? Operational efficiency and compliance records. So you come and be doing additional work now. Okay, how can we manage it to still be efficient and then stay coming? What do you do to help them? We provide templates, tools, and training support upfront. So identifying stakeholder concern in advance is the difference between a policy that is adopted and a policy that is filed. Remember that in day one, unintended consequences. So these are some of the things you identify. Which concern will these people have about this reciprocal mentoring? The senior, the junior, what do we do to have all that put together? So activity that I want you to do, stakeholder mapping exercise, using your working case study from day one, the homework. I want you to complete the following. List your top 3 stakeholder by influence, not by title, by actual power to slow or accelerate implementation. For each, write their stated position and what you believe is their underlying interest. What did they say? And what do they mean? Position is what they say. Interest is what they mean. Propose one engagement action for each. What will you do? How and when? So the key takeaways for today, day 2, is that policy is a statement of intent. Translation into action requires 4 deliberate steps: unpack, sequence, assign accountability, and map enabling conditions. 2, accountability must be personal. Every output needs one person, needs one named person answering for it. Not a department, not a community, not a team. Collective responsibility is often no responsibility. Stakeholders have interests, not just positions. Engage stakeholder and you find room. Engage stakeholder and you find room for progress. Argue the position and you entrench resistance. So what is expected is that listen first, then design your response. Don't be arguing with anybody. Always see feedback as a learning tool. Resistance is information, so use it. Before you override resistance, first of all, understand it. Legitimate constraints, the redesign early will save you enormous implementation costs later. So before day 3, your day 2 homework. Develop a one-page stakeholder map for the policy or program from your day 1 case study. For your top 3 stakeholders by influence, state their current position, identify their underlying interest, propose one specific engagement action. Bring this to day 3. You will use it in the capstone exercise. Coming up in day 3, measuring policy impact. How do you know it is actually working? Thank you very much. See you after the break.